What is happening, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the 182 News Podcast. This is your host, Poppin' Curbs, and I appreciate you tuning in to another episode. If you have not listened to the last one, go back and listen to it right now. We were joined by an extremely special guest, longtime Blink-182 manager Rick DeVoe. He went on to manage Boxcar Racer, Angels and Airwaves, basically took us from 1994 up until present day. So it was really an honor just to pick his brain on what was going on throughout the years. It's going to be extremely tough to find somebody with that much insight from that time span. So definitely check that one out if you have not. I got a ton of great feedback on that, so that was truly a special treat. Hope you enjoyed that. Today, we've got another special guest. This is director Darren Doane. He directed the very first Blink video, M&M's, which was actually shot at Soma number 2. And actually, I was just in LA and San Diego for a week, and I went and visited Soma 2, which it's now a flower shop. So it was so crazy to me to walk in there and just know that this is where Blink's dreams were coming true, and that this was like the best place they wanted to play at. Podcast guest, OG fan, Davy Jones, he went there a ton. So it was really cool for me to just walk around that building like a creeper and think that, oh my gosh, Blink was just up and coming right here, and this used to be the spot. In the back of that building is where they shot the shootout scene for the M&M's video, which we'll get to. So I think I posted a picture of that on the pod Instagram, which was really cool. Darren also directed the legendary Dammit music video. We talk about that quite a bit, as well as the second Josie video. So really an absolute pleasure to chat with Darren. I really hope you enjoy the conversation. As always, I'm always so appreciative of these guests just taking time out of their day to come talk with us about this band that means so much to us. So as always, if you're enjoying these conversations, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear any feedback. Definitely follow the podcast page at 182 News Pod on Instagram, at 182 News on Twitter. That's really where I'm posting updates on any of this stuff. So I'm not going to waste a ton of time here. I want to jump right into this conversation with myself and director, filmmaker, journalist, really just a super creative dude in general, Darren Doane. Really hope you enjoy it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now joining us on the 182 News Podcast, very special guest. He's a filmmaker, director, worked with a ton of rad bands throughout the years, Jimmy Eat World, MXPX, Pennywise, and of course, Blink-182. It's my pleasure to introduce the one and only Darren Doane. How are you, sir?
Man, I'm so pumped to be here, man. I guess I've never done a sort of Blink anthology reflection. This is a first, so I'm stoked to be on your podcast to do it. And man, I'm ready. Let's go.
Awesome, man. Yeah, we've been talking about this for probably a couple years at this point, so I'm
bad.
stoked.
I know.
Yeah, I'm stoked the day's finally here. So, all right, where are you joining us from today, by the way?
Well, I'm a Southern California native. Which explains proximity to Blink back in the day. But 8 years ago now, packed it all up, moved my wife and my family up to North Idaho. And now I live in a place called Moscow, Idaho, right on the Washington-Idaho border.
Okay, awesome. I've never been to Idaho. So
Well,
I don't know a ton about your background and history of how you got into filmmaking and directing. So what I'd like you to do, if you don't mind, is lead us up to how you chose that career path and ended up going down that road. You're a super creative dude. So what led to that?
Thought I was going to draw comic books. I mean, I'm a comic book geek. I mean, I'm a pen and ink just geek. I mean, I could do it all day long. My senior year of high school, I was sending my portfolio out, and everyone was, it wasn't like I was getting no like rejection per se, but I just, I just wasn't getting any offers. And I never planned to go to college. And so I thought, well, all my friends were in bands. I'd grown up with, again, all my friends were musicians, which I think plays a big part in how anything, how this all even worked out for me as far as that part of my career. I knew musicians, and musicians are weird dudes. And so whether it was, my best friend at the time, Craig Anderson, going to drum contests, and loading his gear up with him and packing it up and breaking it down, you get used to that, and your friends playing concerts and the gear and plugging stuff in, and you just get comfortable around all that stuff. And I loved film. I loved music videos in particular. And when I realized that the comic book thing probably wasn't going to pan out, I said, well, I'm just going to start making music videos. And literally the day after high school, I got together with a good friend of mine, and I said, let's just form a film production company and let's make music videos, which just meant quinceañeras and weddings and bar mitzvahs and all that. But again, I'm 30. I'm in Thousand Oaks, California. I'm 30 miles from Hollywood. So it's 1990, man. I mean, we're seeing in the same week Nirvana, Smashing Pumpkins, Primus. I'm going to shows and finding the opening act, right, and saying, let me make a video for you. Let me make a video for you. And that's kind of how it started. And I was at a Jane's Addiction concert, and I met the opening act, and they said, yeah, you should make a music video for us. But that band broke up, but the manager called me, said, I have another band. We flew out, did a video for a band called Scatterbrain, spent about 3 days with this kind of New York hardcore punk metal band. And that was sort of like it. I had then shot a music video, came back, had to figure out what to do with the film and how to edit and all that stuff. And next thing you know, I had a music video, and then kept begging and got another music video, and just kept begging and got another music video. And, $300, $500, couple $100. And then kind of what connects here is, I was an extra. I had no money and was able to be an extra in a Disney movie called Newsies. And it was like 30 days of work at like $200 a day, which was crazy, right? And I took that money because I wanted to save it up to make a short film. But on that movie as an extra, I meet these guys that have like an R&B dance troupe kind of Boys to Men thing, and we make a music video for them. They get signed to MCA Records. As a matter of fact, it was MCA Records, Gasoline Alley Records. Gasoline Alley is who ended up signing Sublime. Really interesting, weird connections here. But that band gets signed. I'm there at the record company because they had other music videos for me to do. I'm thinking, man, I'm 18, 19 years old. I'm at a major label making music videos. It's so cool. And there was an old school A&R dude there named Gui. And some people call him Guy. But he was like a Rick Rubin type dude. He was old school, had a beard, and he was cool. And he said, I know this band out in the desert, and they need a music video. And they're kind of around your age. It ended up being a band called Caius, who became Queens of the Stone Age. But I do that music video, and that music video ends up being the last video played on Headbangers Ball, which at that time was midnight to 3 a.m. So I even fell asleep waiting for it to come on to watch my first music video on or my second or third music video. And but that was the year, literally the year of the month, they started putting directors' names on the videos. And because of that, Fletcher from Pennywise saw the music video and was in a record store, and was actually a record store I had just been in like a few days before, and told the guy, we need to make a music video. I just saw a music video. I'm trying to find this guy, Darren Doane. And the guy says, I have his card. He was in here 2 days ago. Wow. Because I was hustling. I had a business card. It was marble cardstock from Kinko's. I thought it was super cool, and I made up and I met the owner of the record at the record store, and I was like, hey, here's my card. I make music videos. And Fletcher walks in Hermosa Beach, And because I left my business card, Fletcher calls me, and that starts now me being a young kid shooting anything I can possibly shoot to make music videos, to now all of a sudden I get called by Fletcher from Pennywise. And now me having this punk credibility in a world where credibility mattered, I was going to be set up forever, because if you can hang out with Pennywise and survive Pennywise and survive Fletcher, you kind of now are like, you're the man. And so because of Pennywise, that starts this whole access into punk.
Wow. So right out of high school, you get a camera. I mean,
Yeah.
are you just practicing shooting random things throughout your neighborhood or something? I mean, did you have any formal training? What were you editing on? That's fascinating to me.
Yeah, well, and it's still fascinating to me. I always had a video camera. My dad was in the film industry, did special effects. We blew things up and bullet hits and explosions and fire. That's what my so I was around the film industry, but blue collar. I'd visit my dad, and you're hanging with grips and electricians, and it's Brad Pitt having a cigarette with the crew. Like, it was just very not Hollywood, right? And so I always had a video camera, but I was just doing dumb stuff with it. I was filming my friends hanging out of cars, taking out, mailboxes with a baseball bat, like just kind of pre-Jackass stuff. That's what you did with a video camera.
Yeah.
I loved movies, but my best friend in high school, a guy named Ken Dario, who went on to create Despicable Me and the Minions, and I mean, the dude's brilliant. He knew how to film, and he had a bunch of Super 8 cameras film. And so I would hang out with him, and he would talk to me about wide shots and reverse tracking shots. That's how you get the reverse pull, like in Jaws or Hitchcock. And he was teaching me how to direct, but he was lazy. And so I was the guy that wanted to make stuff. So I get him out of bed on a weekend. Let's go make something. He knew how to make stuff. So really, I was more of a producer. I was more of a let's just get stuff done guy. But I learned from him how to edit, shoot film, Super 8 film, develop the film, cut the film, actually cut it, edit it, project it, paint frame by frame a UFO in the sky that moves across. So it was very old school filming, on film. And then when I made my first music video, I was like, well, I'll find someone at USC Film School that's got a camera, and we'll buy 16 millimeter film. And then what do? You transfer it to video. And when and then I went to the Yellow Pages. Video editing right down the street from me was a corporate video editing place that did all these videos for like JD Power and Associates, because where I grew up, JD Power, their home office was in my town. And so there was an old school rocker dude, kind of punk dude, that was the editor, a guy named Rick Pratt. And Rick was like, oh, I'll edit that with you. Like, I do all this corporate stuff, but we'll give you a cheap rate. And because he loved, and he was a musician, he hadn't, wasn't even an avid yet, but it was tape to tape editing, 3/4 inch tape, Beta SP, then eventually digital. So it was a process of just asking questions. What are the first steps? What do you do? How do you develop it? It's on video. Time code. Well, how do you use time code? I caught the tail end of all things historically cinema before digital.
Interesting. Did you have a backup plan at that time, or were you just full-fledged into this filmmaking career and you knew that was what you wanted to do?
I mean, I did no. Yeah, there was no backup plan, and I think to this day that's why I take breaths like I'm taking right now. Like, it's all been wild. And I think that's why I really connected with bands and artists. It's just wild. It's just there really is no backup plan. But seeing these bands and seeing when punk showed up, and then going to Epitaph Records on, the original office they had, and seeing a bunch of weirdos and look like a bunch of losers like me, like, wait, you're building something? You actually know how to get something made? And it's shrink wrapped and you send it out, and like, but being on the road with bands as well, like they're screen printing shirts and you're finding people in the middle of the night that have a screen printing machine, and you're making shirts and they cost you $8, but then you're selling them for 12. All this entrepreneurial, like so it didn't seem like I needed a backup plan, because more than that, I saw that there was opportunity everywhere. Like maybe I would just go into manufacturing or clothing or merchandise or sound, or it never felt like I needed to have a backup plan, because all I saw was opportunity that touched everything.
Nice. Music wise, was that your scene? I mean, are you a SoCal punk rock early 90s guy? Is that why you were so drawn to it, or where did you fall on that?
Well, I'm born in 72, so I graduated high school in 1990. So I'm 18 in 1990. But my brother is 7 years older than me. So, I'm growing up on all the stuff he's listening to, which is everything from Led Zeppelin to 7 Seconds, to, all the punk stuff is there, right? Dead Kennedys, Wasted Youth, Bad Religion was huge for me as a kid. So I grew up with all of that, but I was probably more of a metal kid. I loved metal, but I loved progressive rock and Rush, and I was an Iron Maiden fanatic. And so all that was there, and even early Iron Maiden's very punk rock. So it was all, I loved all of it. So when Pennywise called, and I would see Pennywise stickers. I mean, this is still the 90s are stickers.
Oh yeah.
And I would see stickers, Pennywise, Tool. You would see like stickers, but not know like who they were or what. And I saw a lot of Pennywise stickers, but never knew who they were. So when I first went and met Fletcher, still living at my dad's house, I come home one day and my dad says, some guy named Fletcher just called. Says he's in a punk band called Pennywise. Nice dude. Nice guy. We talked for a while. I was like, oh, that's when you still lived in a home with a phone, right? And an answering machine. And I call this guy. He says, meet me in Hermosa Beach. I drive down Hermosa Beach, about an hour away from me. Go to this apartment, open the door. This dude's like 6'7" with long hair. I put my hand out and say, hey, I'm Darren. He looks up at my hand, shakes my hand, and then I start to walk in, and then he stops me and says, hey, for the future, just know I don't like touching people.
Oh gosh.
I was like, oh, but I walked into his apartment, and I'm trying to, I understand enough about music and punk and metal and scene to know that they're in a punk band. I'm thinking, is punk back? Like, what's going on? 1990, there's no punk scene yet that we think of now. It's Lollapalooza, it's alternative, it's Jane's Addiction.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Henry Rollins, maybe it's the Butthole Surfers, the kind of edgy 120 minutes alternative, but punk, like, and I was a music fanatic. I know what's hip, I know what's cool, and it's not punk yet. It's Primus. It's like I said, it's Jane's Addiction. It's Red Hot Chili Peppers. Maybe The Cure. It's not punk. But I walk into Fletcher's living room, and he has a Danzig, like a huge, like 6-foot Danzig poster. I think, okay, like I get Danzig, like, all right. And we sit down, and he starts telling me about Epitaph Records, and I'm realizing, like, we're talking music, so he knows I know what I'm talking about, and I can talk music. And Bad Religion, that's, now that's going to be the connection from Brett Gurwitz, who owns Epitaph Records, and they're signed by that label. And I know, oh yeah, Bad Religion, how can it get any worse? And we're talking. So I'm, all that culture of who I am is now, it's cashing out, right? We're communicating. I know the vernacular, right? So he can trust me. I may not look like a punk dude that's all tough like some of those, but I can speak the language. I get it. I surf, I skate. I know, like, I'm one of them. But I didn't know there was a one of them to be.
Yeah.
Right. And So I just kind of fit. And then I remember he said, okay, we need to make a music video. He said, I only have one request. He says, don't you dare make us look like effing Metallica.
Wow.
I thought, oh, all right, I kind of have a weird request, but okay. So we shoot the music video, and the first video, "Dying to Know." I think it was "Dying to Know" for Pennywise, and I edit the video and I realize, well, I made him look like Metallica because that's in me. I want to make a Metallica video. Of course, I want to make a Metallica video. But Fletcher's got long hair and he's rocking. I mean, it's how do you not look like Metallica, right?
Yeah.
And so I have to go and show him the first edit, which is always, it's early in my career, but it's still the worst experience. You used to take a VHS copy, you would drive somewhere, you'd pop it in a VCR, and you would show somebody the first edit. You have to sit there and watch it with them. And we get through the video, it ends, and it's just this pause, and Fletcher goes, and he just loses it. That is effing amazing. He's so pumped. And I remember thinking, all right, so when a band tells you don't make them look like Metallica, what they really mean is please make us look like Metallica. whether they know it or not, right? And,
oh my gosh.
And that just, and that was it. And it literally seemed like overnight, punk just exploded. Green Day explodes, The Offspring explodes. It just starts going. And I'm the only guy. I'm an 18, 19-year-old kid, maybe 20, I don't know at the time. Like I'm the only guy. I'm the only guy that's one of them. Right? And proximity matters. I say it all the time. I was the only kid there. I'm the only kid on the road with these bands. I'm on tour with these bands. I'm meeting every other band. I'm in the scene. There's no one else making music videos. There's Louis Posen, who owned Hopeless Records. He was making music videos, but he was slowly losing his sight from something that had gone wrong. And so literally the only other guy lost his eyesight and wasn't making music videos. So like he was doing like no effects and kind of that stuff up north. I was SoCal, but I get it. I mean, there was no such thing as that job. It kind of goes back to your first question, like about Plan B. There was no, in 1990 to 95, there's no such thing as I'm going to be a music video director. I mean, some people went to art school, but even that was weird. Like there was no, oh, I'm going to be an artist or I'm going to be an entrepreneur or I'm going to be I felt very, there was no place for me. You couldn't talk to your girlfriend's parents about what you were doing in life if you were an artist because you were a weirdo. Like, what do you mean you're not going to college? What do you mean you don't have so being with bands on the road, being at these upstart record companies, you felt like, okay, I'm with like-minded people who are doing something. And so I ended up just getting very absorbed in all the business around everything.
Gosh, that's pretty cool, man. And I mean, it seems like for you, as you're getting this work and you're able to, bring their vision to life and you see how stoked Fletcher is. I mean, for you, that's probably one of the best feelings for you to this day.
I'm the fifth member. I couldn't play an instrument. I couldn't sing, which turns out you don't have to know how to sing. I should have realized that, but I couldn't, it was being in the band. I got to join all these bands. That's a dream come true.
Yeah. So 1995 rolls around and this little band called Blink at the time, they released Cheshire Cat and they're looking to make a music video. At this point, they are signed to Cargo Records. How do you get introduced to them? Did you seek them, vice versa? Do you have any recollection of that?
When we talked, I was jogging my brain. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. How did it actually? I was trying, like, how did it actually happen? Like, I was really trying to figure out, because I wanted to bring something for your podcast or for your listeners, like geeky. Okay, wait, how did it really happen?
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I was also working a lot with a band called Strife, hardcore straight edge band that was just one of the greatest. Just they're so good. Very much like a Pennywise, they were carving out their own thing. And there was a girl who I met on tour with Strife who was managing some of the bands that were on tour. And her name will come to me at some point. And she kind of had like a zine. So she had some kind of punk zine. And I think she was an East Coast girl. She came out to the West Coast, had kept in touch, and she was hanging out with Pennywise, and Blink was there. And Blink mentioned that they were going to have to do a music video, and I think her name was Susan Wells. And Susan Wells is in the room, and Susan Wells says, you have to use Darren Doane. And she called me and said, you have to work with this band Blink 182 and do a music video for them. I said, okay. So literally, that's how it happens. A girl that I met on tour who was managing in some other bands gets to the West Coast, is seeing Pennywise. Blink is there, and they say they have to make a music video, and she says, you have to use Darren. And she calls me and says, you have to do a video for this band. And then I think the next phone call I got was from Eric, who owned, if I remember his name right, who owned Cargo Records.
Yep.
And that's how it happens. Like, so like the actual technical, how does it happen, right? It wasn't show me your reel or, what have you done? It was, you should use this kid, Darren. Okay.
Wow. So the video, of course, is Eminem's. So this happens July 1995. I've always heard that Tom's original vision for this was basically 50 people lined up getting shot in the nuts in slow motion. What do you recall about that introduction, meeting them, and kind of the vision of this video to begin with?
To be fair, I think that was their vision for every music video. I think that was
their way.
If they had it their way, that would be it. I remember driving down San Diego and meeting at one of their apartments, and I think that did come up. Yeah, but so what came up was being shot, and I said, well, my father does special effects, so he can do all that. That's what my dad did. We can do the squibs. And like, no way, we can do that. Yeah, okay, So that was there. And one of the guys just said, but how do we get a bunch of hot girls in the video to like us? And so the idea was, how do we get girls in the video? But then how do we get all the girls to end up like killing us? And that was really it. And I think that was, back then that was as good of an idea as any. It was like, okay, the video is, you guys are all waking up. You've all screwed these girls over by stealing something or taking something. You've all, and then you go and do your day in San Diego. But ultimately, then you got to go play a show, and you're going to load in, and the girls show up and they all kill you. And it was like, that seems like a good enough video. Like, that was it, Yeah. So like, let's do that.
It's so interesting that you pointed to the special effects a bit ago, because one of the questions that I was going to get to is, when I've watched this and gone back and rewatched it, the little bullet explosions on their chest and that whole action scene was kind of ahead of its time for music videos and such. And I was going to ask you, how did you guys pull that off? Because it looks super real.
Yeah, I mean, my father was one of the best special effects men in the history of special effects. I mean, starts in the 50s and 60s when there's not really a defined category, and ends up becoming like legendary pyrotechnician, master. My brother has now followed in his footsteps, and my brother is now doing Black Panther in every Marvel movie and all that. You know what? Back to your personal question, that may have been a backup. I think maybe I remember my dad always saying, like, I can teach you all this stuff, but it still seemed way too math oriented when trying not to kill people,
Yeah.
So and that wasn't going to be me, but yeah, that was my dad was always my secret weapon. My dad and my brother was always my secret weapon. We could blow things up. We could do things like that. And my dad, obviously, that's not how he made a living doing music videos. It was side gigs. He'd come and bring the $50,000 or $100,000, worth of special effects down, or drive his big semi truck down with all the gear. And, he gave, I would roll up as this little kid, punk kid, but my dad would be there and everyone would see my dad and they'd be like, my dad had all the cred. That was kind of like, they were like, whoa, Darren's dad is so cool, and, so that was, yeah, I mean, in a sense, when you do a scene like that, there's no more little movie, indie film, little underground. No. When you start to do special effects, it's real. A blood pack going off is going to be just as high level for a James Cameron movie as it is for a Blink scene. And I didn't think about it then really, because we would just make the music video and kind of move on. But it had an impact. People were seeing those videos really just on, again, there's no MTV yet for them. So those are DVD. Those are VHS compilations that are getting shared.
Yeah.
And people are seeing these videos and people are talking about them. And it was the equivalent of the internet then. Again, who made that music video? It was like Pennywise had a music video. Now Blink had a music video. And as everything went off, who's the guy making these music videos?
That shootout scene is at the famous Soma location, I believe. That's correct, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yes.
That's where the shootout scene happens. That had to be one take, right? Because of the mess?
Yeah. You don't. I think we were prepared. I think, you're always prepared to do it twice. And Tom's was the only scary one because he wanted to check his pulse. So the squib goes off. He's got to check his pulse, but he has to check his pulse right where the other squib is. So you have to wait until the hands come off and then boom. That would have been the only one that wrong and maybe have to do it again. But everyone got it. I mean, I think there's behind the scenes footage floating out there of us doing that scene.
There is.
Which is cool. Yeah, which is really cool because you hear us and, the way it's weird to hear that because the way I sound on the set then is still how I sound on the set today. So that's weird. I'm still stuttering. I'm still turn around. Right. More. And look, I was, meeting. Blink was like meeting. It was like meeting me. It was like them meeting them. There was no. What makes Blink so special is, Pennywise, I kind of had this pressure. It was, you were representing punk and a legacy. And it was, I meet Blink and all of a sudden there's no one's pretentious. There's no everything is, do you know what would be funny? Do you know what would be funny? Do you know what we should do? Do you know what we should do? And I was back in the sandbox playing, and they just didn't care. And serving the artist, serving the client, quote unquote, with them, they never ever wanted to change. They loved everything. I'd send them the video, love it. Love it. This is great. This is great. This is so much fun. And yeah, that's how it was. It was just they, and then remember Tom doing the Mentos, right?
I think Scott holds up the
Scott
Mentos. Yeah.
Right, which I think was Tom's idea. They had them do it on the Mentos because I think it's not too long after. I think the Foo Fighters do like the Mentos video takeoff. And I remember people would always talk about Blink did the Mentos first, and there was all this like, in our little world of like things we thought were funny.
Yeah.
But if they thought it was funny, they were going to do it.
What I love about those behind the scenes videos that are floating around on YouTube somewhere is you're in it and you're rocking the old school original Blink shirt. And if you still had that shirt, it'd be worth a lot of money, to be honest. It's a hot collector's item.
Really? No, I don't. I remember somewhere in 96, 97, I had to throw away hundreds of t-shirts, and I just said, I'm never taking another band shirt again. Like I can't do it. So I wish I had it.
How were they on set? And was that a 1-day shoot, 2-day shoot? Do you recall?
I think that was a 1-day shoot. I think we got there the night before, maybe. And then it was just morning to night. It was just 12-hour, 14-hour. And they are, they're just, working with Blink all throughout the years that I did, there was almost like a really fun jealousy because I couldn't believe how much fun they were having. I'm stressed trying to make a music video, trying to stay on budget. To me, there's a business, aspect of it, and are we going to get paid? And it's work. And I'm watching them, and they're just literally making fart jokes all day long, and laughing with each other, just and like all day long. And that's the magic. I think that is the magic of Blink, is they somehow, how did I say, they somehow got outside of, they suspended themselves out of the music industry. Like they weren't in it. They were able to somehow like astral plane out of the politics and the business and just be them, that's what makes Blink, I think, probably one of the greatest bands of all time, is that ability to just not be in. You want to talk about punk rock. Those dudes did everything on their terms because they could. They got every step where they were going on their own terms. They literally did not adapt to what anybody could have told them to do or be. They are the commodity, and everyone had to play by their rules, and they never stopped having fun.
Man, that's so cool. And
you sense that. And they had swagger. And that's the thing. And they had swagger. Like, oh, the jokey, funny band. Back then it was the funny band with the bunny mascot. Like, they're not Offspring. They're not Green Day. They're not Pennywise. They're not Guttermouth. They're not AFI. Like, they're not cool. They're the joke band.
Yeah.
And it's like, I remember when I walked in, because we shot at Mark's mom's house for the video, but that's Mark's actual room. And I remember walking into Mark's room, and you can see it in the video, and he's got like a 6x4 poster of Ned's Atomic Dustbin. To me, that's kind of all you have to know as far as Easter eggs, as far as them as people and their musical influences. They weren't, and what's interesting is Ned's Atomic Dustbin, band from England, they have 2 bass players.
Yeah.
And Mark's a bass player. So it's kind of funny, right? Like the biggest poster is a band with 2 bass players.
Yeah.
But sitting them talking about music, they just, even the stuff they were listening to and what they were into were going to be the kinds of things that I think would come out later. And it's not until you get to what's the Smiley Face album? What's the face? Well,
Untitled. Their Untitled album.
Yeah, that's why I never know the name, right? Yeah, it's just right. So it's not until you get to that album that you realize this might be one of the greatest bands of all time. And because of the access of an independent music scene, what should have been sketches, what should have been just rough ideas before you grew up and became a real band, were actual releases. So all their jokes, all their ideas, they just happen to have 3 albums before you get there. Or is it 2 albums before you get there? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so it's their 4th album, right? Untitled's 4th. And you can hear it. You can hear the melodic. It's coming. It's there. It's always there. But until you get to Untitled, you don't realize that the joke is on everybody else that thought they were a joke band.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. For
I
sure.
mean, because that's a perfect album.
Masterpiece.
It's a masterpiece. It is a perfect album from beginning to end. And I don't know if people really understand that part of it. Like, that is what makes Blink so special. I got to be a part of the fun Blink, which I think that was my purpose. Watching then what they did from Untitled on has just been gorgeous to watch.
The story goes that Eminem's video was shown to MTV and they saw the guns right away and said, nope, no chance, not happening. And then what is now the official video, which basically removed that revenge scenario. How do you recall that playing out? Did you have to reshoot all that stuff, re-edit it? I mean, how did that go down?
Yeah, thankfully we had actually shot a bunch of performance stuff inside Soma as well. And at some point someone just called, and we knew, but no one thought it was going to MTV. We just, when someone said there needed to be an edit without the guns, it just was like, okay, whatever. And I remember we did that. And, cause I don't recall, did M&M's ever get on MTV?
I think the second video did, but I don't know about that original one.
See, there's an interesting behind the scenes thread that is happening at that time. And I'll be off a little bit here on the chronology, but at that time, like right after that, I ended up doing a music video for MXPX. Because MXPX can't get on MTV because it's a Christian label, and obviously they're not going to play some Christian punk band. That's just, that's in mid 90s. That's like the funniest joke in the world. Like, that's not going to happen. And so I do a music video for a song called Punk Rock Show for MXPX. And in the same week or two, I'm doing another music video for Pennywise. And while we're editing the Pennywise video, I say, man, I wonder if I should show Fletcher this little punk band, Christian punk band, Punk Rock Show. Man, I'll show it to him. And I played it for him. Fletcher watches the video, it ends, and he says, that might be the best punk song ever written. I was like, oh. And then a week later, I showed Blink that video. And Blink had they said that might be the best punk song ever written. And it was like things were now starting, what I remember happening is things then started kind of from Pennywise to Blink, ska is blowing up, MXPX. Everyone is thinking about MTV. MTV is now becoming this like real thing. And you're realizing, man, if we get there, it's kind of game over.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm the director. So there was this new kind of pressure of that I think maybe only music producers had before then. Like, you got to make a hit.
Yeah.
You know, like, got to be a hit. And then it seemed like right after that, I got the news that Blink had gotten signed to a major label.
Yeah. Yeah. And that leads right into where I'm going with this, because a couple years roll by, Blink is now signed to MCA, which is a major label. Once again, they're looking to do a music video, this time for Dammit, which that's my favorite Blink song of all time. I mean, iconic. It's what got me into this band. They come right back to you to shoot this video. It's outside of a theater in Beverly Hills. I actually visited it last summer. I was in town, and I just drove by it, and I got out, took some pictures. I had to. What do you remember? Because the band is now, they have Dude Ranch. They're growing. They're now Blink-182, name change. What do you recall about, getting back involved with them a couple years later?
Well, I'd seen them nonstop because I was still, we're in the same scene. We're at the same shows. I'm on the same tours with like Pennywise, and we're down in Tijuana doing shows, and we're over like we see each other and we're friends, and then I get the call and say, hey, we got to make another music video. I think M&M's was like $5,000 or maybe $6,000. I forget which was kind of nice. It was like, woo, like $5,000. This is crazy. Like, Cargo Records put some money into that. And so, but now it was like, hey, we have $30,000. I think it's like $25,000 or $30,000 to do a music video. And it was like, oh, and literally we got on the phone, I think, and it was the same conversation. Like, it'd be funny if there was like a pretty girl in it and we somehow get like beat up. It was the exact same, like, literally that was every conversation. That was every, like, what if there was a girl and we got beat up or something, and ha 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 ha, and it was like, okay. And I kind of wrote up the idea and I think sent it to Rick DeVoe. And again, the inside baseball is like, I'm talking to Rick DeVoe. They've gotten signed to a major label, but there's no major, I don't talk to the record company at all. And so it's kind of the same thing. It was never a conversation like we should go bigger. It was like, well, if we have more money, let's, we can rent a movie theater. Okay. Yeah. And the whole thing's in a movie theater and a sound stage. And so that was kind of cool. We had some money, so we went to a big white cyc sound stage somewhere in, LA or Hollywood to shoot the band performance, right? So that felt bigger, right? It was like $5,000 to go on the sound stage. And with the look and the vibe, and I got to go a little more stylized on that, and slow motion, all the stuff I love, and it was cool. It was like making a band look really, really cool. Then we went and did the storyline, and I can tell you plenty of stories from that night. But what's interesting is when we were editing the video, I get a call from Rick DeVoe, and Rick says, dude, the song just exploded on K-Rock. And because remember, when we made the video, no one even from the record company came down. Nobody cared about this band.
Wow.
I mean, it's still just us spending somebody's money. There's no record company. And Rick says, they're trying to find where you're at now to come edit the video with you. And I'm like, wait, what? He's like, so don't tell them where you're at if they track you down. Like, just make the music video. I was like, oh, okay. But you have to understand, like, for a kid now, mid-20s, not a kid anymore, I'm in my mid-20s, you're a director This punk thing is about to blow up. This is as close to being like Jason Bourne as I'm going to get. Like, this is like, now we're like making music videos that the record label's trying to get to, and now we're hiding, and we can't let the label get to us. And my phone starts blowing up. All these 213 numbers, 310 numbers, 818 numbers. Like, they're trying to find me to fix, because they have a hit song, and we have a hit song. We shot a video. Wait a minute. What's going on? Who shot the video? Like, what do you mean we shot a video? Like, well, where is it? It's got to go to MTV. MTV's asking for it, which I think is why they then called it Growing Up, right? That even Dammit wasn't allowed. I forget, but I was like, oh my goodness, like, we're hiding now. We're hiding out, making a music video. And I would just work directly with Rick DeVoe and got the video to Rick. And thankfully, there was such a quick time crunch. They had, they had to go to MTV. There was no time to put notes on it. It just went, and that was a literal overnight. I got in the car, put K-Rock on, and they played it 3 times from there and me getting home. Like, it was nonstop. Overnight, my friends were now on K-Rock. They're like they were the number 1 song, and you were like, oh wow, everything just changed. The record company's calling, and that video drops, and that was the equivalent then, because remember, directors' names are on the music videos. That's the equivalent. That's the equivalent of trending on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok times 10 back then. That was every single human being on the planet looking down and going, is that Darren Doane? For me, my side of that story, right? Yeah. It's also Blink exploding, but that is like, now your phone is blowing up. Now everyone you went to high school with is like, dude, Doane, what? Like, that overnight, everybody's life just literally just changes. And you can't even comprehend what that feels like. And then the next time I see them, they're making fart jokes.
Like, looking for burritos.
Looking for burritos, unaffected. Just, that's what I mean. The world went nuts. They just were so in their lane.
Did you guys shoot all the theater stuff in one night?
Yeah. It was like 9 to 3 a.m.
Where was the performance shot at, where they were actually playing?
Yeah, it was either in Hollywood or LA, one of the sound stages there. I'll remember the name of the actual place, but yeah, it was just, there's a couple major studios that have the big white Sykes and the big lights and all that, and it was just it was just, that felt big. There was a green room there and makeup and all that, and we had all that. It was, it was like, hey, we're on like M&M's, the girls who were in the video were all models, and they brought their own makeup, and they ended up doing all the makeup for the guys.
So speaking of Rick DeVoe, he has a little cameo in this video, and my understanding is originally he was just kind of the behind the counter popcorn guy, and the story goes he was just so funny, and Mark and Tom just thought he was so funny and just kept saying, we have got to put more of him in this video. Yeah. How did that work out?
Yeah, that's what I mean. You're with them, you are in the sandbox, you're just playing, and Rick put the outfit on, and he just started moving that way, and we were all laughing because he was like, how do I serve pup? We were like, and we couldn't stop laughing at Rick. Like, he just looked so funny, and he just doing his thing, and we just, and it just was funny. And you can imagine if you think a fart noise sound is funny and that's enough for them, now you get Rick DeVoe doing something that actually is funny, and they're like losing their mind, like, we got to do that. And there's just a party that thinks we all think this is funny, but is anybody else going to think it's funny? But then that's what Blink did. They said, no, you come to our party, you come to our inside jokes, you're going to come here. When you get deeper on culture and brand and what they were building from a community standpoint, that's why their fans are so real and it's authentic. It never catered to anything except we're throwing a party. And if you want to hang out with us, this is how we have a good time. And that's how they saw Rick DeVoe. And yeah, it was like, that may have been the only note, which was just more Rick. It makes us laugh. Put more Rick in.
I love that. And that's when I think of Blink, I think of good times. I mean, that's the best way for me to put it. I think of fun, time, hanging out, party, having fun, fart jokes, whatever. It's just, it's so great. And that's why they're so special to so many of us, all over the world, because no matter where you are, when you listen to that song or Dammit comes on, it takes you back to that time period and reminds you of just simpler, fun times is the best way I can put it. That video has 73 million views, man. Is that not crazy?
Yeah, I mean, it is really crazy, especially because in the early days of YouTube, it was already that high. Now Post Malone gets that in an hour, right? When you think in terms of like view count, but pre 2000, 2010, for something to have 30, 40, 50 million views, it's kind of hard to comprehend again how massive that is.
Were you comfortable with, were you starting to get hit up like crazy with job? I mean, did it get crazy for you? How did you handle it?
I'm a stupid guy in my early 20s, mid 20s, and you definitely, I definitely think I got arrogant. I don't think it showed. I know my own heart, right? I mean, I know, there's a fine line. You don't have anyone walking you through it, right? You don't have anyone walking you through kind of, I'm sure athletes go through that, right? You just don't, you don't have anyone walking you through that. So there's a fine line between confidence and swagger, and especially as a director, you want to make people feel comfortable. You're leading the ship. That's what you want. So I think I was never like an a-hole or anything, but I know I was getting probably a little high on my own supply as far as what I thought I could do at that time. Which then the reality check comes when I get the call and they say, "Hey, we just want to let you know we're going with somebody else for Josie."
Oh, you're leading me perfect into what I want to talk about next.
And it was like, what do you like? And Rick says, "Darren, it's complicated. The band is so big now. We have to work with the music video department, and everyone's got agents and managers and the directors, and there's treatments and all these things. And I don't have a manager. I don't have an agent, so it's like, and it's just kind of the way it is now. Like, I'm totally sorry." And I was like, "Oh, like, oh, okay." But I mean, I was doing other stuff at that time, and I was like, wow, okay. Like, that was the first, like, wow, that didn't happen. And so I think that humbled me really quick, thankfully. I was like, oh, okay. All right. Which all artists go through. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You could be a graphic designer and the client doesn't. Yeah, I mean, it's all part of the game, right?
Yeah.
But it just seems so personal at that time. Like, I thought we were all doing this together. Like, what do you mean? That's like kicking out a band member. You can't do that, or can you? And but it was like, oh, and so I remember. But at that time, I'm also doing like probably unwritten law videos, and I'm doing big videos, and so things keep going.
Yeah,
and things are getting bigger for my career. Then a couple months later, I get a phone call, and it's Rick, and he says, "Hey, we shot the video for Josie, and it's not good." And I'm like, this is that dream call you want when you don't get the gig. It never happens. No one ever calls you and says, we went with somebody else, now save us.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. And Rick's like, it's kind of hard to explain. It wasn't that it's a bad video, but the idea just didn't get executed well. He goes, and I told him, and Rick's that kind of, he goes, I told him, like, we should go with Doane. They didn't, and I'm saying to them now, we have to go with Doane. And he said, and I told them the same amount of money they spent on that one, Doane has to have the same budget to do this new one. And it was like $250,000 or something.
Oh my gosh.
Like, it's not, I mean, you gotta understand, 7,000 to 30 to now like 250 grand.
Yeah.
And they already spent it once.
Right.
And Rick was like, we're not paying for it. We never wanted to do it. Doane gets the same budget, and we're doing this with him. And so I think the humility in those 3 months really shaped me really for the rest of my career. Like, one, in understanding that you get an opportunity to come alongside these bands. You don't understand what they're going through, the pressure, the politics, the stuff they're constantly navigating. You have to just be thankful when you get to jump on the bus with them, you know? And I knew pretty early on I wasn't going to play the bro game and just try to put myself out with everyone all the time. And so I always get the projects. I was like, hey, when it fits, it's going to fit. That's going to be my thing. And then showing back up on the set for Josie at that moment, because of the humility, the growth I had had in directing, the notoriety, who Blink was at that time, like, we showed up on that set like we were just gonna just destroy. Like, we all felt really good. Like, we knew we were gonna crush it. Like the energy and the vibe, you know, was just like we were in the zone.
And it's such a great video. So this was filmed at Westlake High School. And to back up a tad, if folks don't know what the original one was, there's small clips of it that had surfaced. Yeah. But essentially, it's the band kind of underwater and water's rising. And from all accounts, from Mark and
yeah, they're in a basement. I think the Malloys directed it, and they're like, the Malloys are amazing. The dudes are so good. Some of my favorites, you know. Something gets hit, the pipes bust, and it slowly fills up underwater. And, you know, but again, I've only seen snippets of what I don't know what it was supposed to be. For all I know, the Malloys could have had a whole other vision. I don't know. But, you know.
By all accounts, Mark and Tom said it was a horrible experience and obviously didn't meet their expectations. So April 1998, you get to shoot the second Josie video. Alyssa Milano is brought in.
Yeah.
Rising star. This is a really cool video. There's that food fight scene in the cafeteria. Something I love.
That's where I went to high school. That's where I went to high school.
Oh, really?
That's my alma mater. Like, that's where I went to high school. So to show back up now at your high school, have the whole high school as yours. Like, renting the whole school and extras in the field, and, like, you know, it wasn't, I mean, I was only not that long out of high school. Like, so to return and do all the things I had imagined, like the food fight and those sort of, like, it was crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Cool. That's pretty cool, man. There's an old school Blink fan who I've befriended throughout the years. He's been on the pod, Davy Jones. I think you guys may have connected recently.
Just connected, yeah.
Yeah, but he was there. He was an extra. And
that's
so at the end of that music video, there's someone who pokes Mark on the stretcher with one of Scott's drumsticks. That's Davey. It's such a small world. But what do you remember about that shoot? How were the guys? Was it a ton of fun? I mean, the food fight, I'm assuming, is one take. Had to be.
Yeah, one take. What I remember from that video was we really felt like we were making a movie. Like, we really felt like we were making a movie. And we just knew we could go all in. We knew we could just that now it was all understandable. We knew what we were doing. We knew how to do this whole thing, and so we were just in the zone, and it was funny. We were still coming up with things, and every idea, and of course we have extras. So now you have 100 or so plus extras at all time. They're hanging with them the whole time, and it's fun. We have a huge crew, and it's just, but we felt all in the zone, and we would, we have a playback filming scenes and watching it back, and how did it go? And I just remember, and then Alyssa Milano being there, adding this like star factor, but she's so cool and down to earth. And I mean, there's like the political Alyssa Milano from the last couple of years. Everyone thinks about her. I mean, I grew up watching Alyssa Milano, and I can say from all the people I've met in Hollywood, from all the projects I've done, like one of the coolest girls you're ever going to meet. And she showed up, and she had such a good time. She brought so much energy. I mean, just like one of your friends. She is just like one of your friends, and they all got along, and it was so cool. And she brought that element of being just a really amazing actress.
Yeah.
Like doing scenes and how they did it. And, so I just remember, I think my biggest takeaway on that day was definitely the food fight, knowing it was going to be one take, and Mark being able to kind of flail himself the way that only he can. It just, and then I think when he puts the clothes on for the track scene, it's kind of the first Blink like wardrobe prop moment in their career. There's really no other moment like that. And to me, that's kind of where they were going to go on the next album. Like it was going there. And so to be a part of like that starting point of them in character, and the tracksuit for Tom, and Scott, all that, and then just the band performance in the bathroom, like in the back, like with the urinals. It just was a cool location, but it's just so Blink to be performing in the urinals like that. Like everything just worked. And I just remember them having so much fun. And probably the weirdest though takeaway moment was, I remember we were sitting like in the director chairs, like in the chairs, and I remember me and Mark kind of had this really heavy conversation. We had some downtime, and I won't go into the details of, but it's a really, for me, it's a really interesting moment, because we had this really deep conversation about like life and marriage and relationships and about right and wrong. We actually had this deep conversation about just morality. And so it's really funny that at that moment, that's what me and him are talking about. Yeah. Like, it wasn't the music, the band success. It was like, we were talking about like morality and like absolutes and behavior. And, we kind of had this half-hour break. I remember just sitting there. We just had this is really deep, cool conversation about just what's going to govern your life, what's going to govern how we all move forward from here. It was a really special moment.
Interesting. So they go on to make Enema of the State absolutely blow up. Did you see that coming? I mean, did that catch you by surprise? How did you feel about that when that was going down?
Yeah, it felt like it was coming, because Josie wasn't. Dammit was so big. Dammit just kept getting bigger. So Josie kind of just faded. It wasn't the big radio song, because the radio kept playing Dammit.
Yeah.
Right. And you can't tell radio stop playing one song and try this. You keep pushing. And so it felt like Dammit just kept going. And then Enema of the State comes. And at that point, it was, I mean, they called and sent me the song. And I remember they said, I think we want to be naked for the whole video. And I remember honestly saying, like, you know what, guys, I don't think I'm the right guy for that. Like, I remember saying, like now we found my line. Like, it was just like, you know, and they were like, and we want to put a porn star in it. And I was like, you know, I think we found my line. You know, like, I was like, I'm cool, you're cool, but I think this is like, I think it's time, you know. I also knew pretty early on, meaning at that time in my career, that I was really good at a certain time for bands. There was a moment when a band would get to that I really honestly felt like part of being on their team was saying, I think you should work with this director or that director. So even after that, I was recommending directors. All the bands I'd worked with, I was always like, I never thought I was the best director. I always tell my friends, I don't know why you're using me. I would use, you know, this guy or that guy, or, you know, like that. You know, they're always like, what are you talking about? You know, turns out people liked work with me because it was actually enjoyable, you know. But seeing what they did after that was sort of what I've always kind of prided myself on, which is I'm here to support the band in any way, shape, or form. If that's as a friend, as a director, as a producer, like I've always wanted, because I grew up with musicians. I understand musicians. I know what they go through. And what they need more than anything is just to have people on their team. And then where you fit will shake out. And when Enema comes out, it seemed inevitable, but at that moment when it came out, it just, again, because even who they use, I think, was that, did Webb direct that one? Was that Webb? Who
I can't recall the director's name of the What's My Age Again video.
Because I think he, can you Google who directed Blink, What's My Age Again director? But I think he's the guy that also went on to direct like Spider-Man and then like 500 Days of Summer. Anyways, the point being is that back to Blink's brilliance. Marcos Siega had that one. That's right. Okay. And Marcos, great director. My goodness. And bands know when they need the right piece. Right. And when you think about even the transition then at that point to Travis, because that's when Travis comes in, right?
Yeah, he comes in like mid 1998, so he's on the Enema cycle.
I think you have to, which is a funny term to be on the Enema cycle, but but that is like Blink knew, you know, Travis joining Blink it's not calculated, but man, if you were going to calculate now what's going to make the greatest pop punk band of all time, it's Travis.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you, I mean, you can't on paper say, we'll get the drummer from the Aquabats and then become like the greatest, like now like street cred, like neck tat, like we're going to out punk everybody. Like it's the kind of move that creates an in-between record, in my opinion, as big as that record is. Like I said, it's the in-between, because then when you get to Untitled, the formulation of Travis really then explodes.
Yeah.
You know, like it's the perfect, it's going to become the perfect piece, the perfect friction. It's going to be, it creates everything that I think it then has to be. And I just remember just going, wow, how did you pull this off? But again, it's just them staying in their lane.
Yeah, the missing piece was there. And I mean, at that point, they're firing on all cylinders, just ready to take over the world, really. It's
Yeah,
pretty
because you
wild.
could, yeah, 'cause you could obviously argue that Mark and Tom aren't great musicians. I would argue they are, but you could argue they aren't, right? No one's going to say vocal stylings and this or that, but what they do is just so phenomenal. Then you bring Travis in. Travis now unlocks everything and allows everybody to be who they are as musicians. And then it's like, wait a minute, now I'm watching like 3-hour videos of Tom talking about music delays and sound, but you're like this dude is a sonic genius, right?
Yeah.
And you know, you start to see Mark a little bit differently, and Mark stylings, even as a producer, he produced an album for Motion City Soundtrack,
Yep.
which is one of the greatest pop albums ever made. And so when you realize that, like, Mark produced it and his influence on that album, and that album is another that album is a, commit this to memory, I think it is like a perfect album, and it can't be a coincidence that Mark Hoppus is producing that album.
Totally.
So who they are and sonically what they can do and what they want to do and what they're about to do is just like, at that moment, I just sitting back going, you got to be kidding me. Amazing.
Did you keep in contact with them, several years after that, or how did that kind of play out?
Yeah, we'd still see each other. And I would see Tom, this in business cycles, him with his shoe line and Atticus and that stuff. So we would see each other and just get in the room and just start laughing about stuff. And but like, honestly, I think the couple of times I saw Tom after that, he was getting really into his whole UFO thing.
Still is.
Like, yeah, no, like it was going. It was like, it was like, oh, he's really into this,
Oh yeah.
And then Mark, I would see, and it was funny because Mark, then obviously him going through his battle with cancer, but even before then, though, I think back to that conversation we had on the set of Josie, the way Mark looks today is like who I saw in that conversation. Like Mark, there's a sadness, not a bad way. There's a deep aspect to Mark that only really comes out in his tone, more than his lyrics per se. Mark has much more of a deep artist soul.
Totally.
Where Mark's very experimental and sonically, and Mark has my favorite. I mean, Tom's got my favorite kind of voice. It's why I like Jane's Addiction. It's like an 8-year-old throwing a tantrum, right? It's like a just so, it's so high and screamy, like I want it now. Like he's got this, and Mark's got this soothing, deep, kind of introspective, take. Like Mark always felt to me like there was something else going on that he was always thinking about. It was always with Mark. There was just, where Tom was, let's go, 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 go.
Yeah.
Mark always had something that always like, man, he's thinking about something. He's thinking about something, So watch him go through it with his bout with cancer. I'd reached out a couple times just to say, hey, praying for you. Watch him go through that, and now seeing him, it's almost like, oh wow, yeah, there's Mark.
Yeah.
There's Mark. He's really this icon. He's this, almost like he's the Godfather now. Really interesting.
Yeah. And he's such a humble, nice
Oh,
dude. It's crazy. In the past couple of years, Mark and I have actually become friends. So since I've launched the podcast, he's not just the dude on my wall anymore. He's like my friend
right,
Mark.
right.
And what you just spoke about, I mean, he truly cares. Like, I mean, I could get
Yes,
emotional, like even
yes,
talking about it, man. But it's
yeah,
like when I had COVID, like Mark Hoppus was texting me.
yeah.
My wife was just going through some stuff. Mark Hoppus is texting me, so it's like
That guy. He's
that's the
that guy.
type of dude he is. So it's
And
so interesting, man.
and and that's what I mean by, like, as a director, you're watching everybody's energy, and part of the job of being a director is you're communicating with everyone where they're at, right? So I have to talk to you if you're the artist, then I got to go talk to the grip, the electrician, the cinematographer, the producer, the label, and those are all different conversations, right? So you so
Yeah.
you have so you have to lock in with each individual, right? And so it's a little schizophrenic, but you get to know people differently, and that's why when I'm talking to Tom's looking over your shoulder because there's something to do, right? Mark is looking at you, and he's right there. He's right there in those. He's right there in those moments, and again, it's something you only think a lot about because you come on a podcast, so you're forced to think more about something than maybe you normally would.
Yeah.
Um, but Mark, um, he always had this thing where it's almost like he found an opportunity and he was going to take it. It may not have even have been the thing he wanted to do, but he's almost like a blue collar dude that said, but this is a good gig.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the good gig. This is a good gig. Like, that's like, I got that vibe, because in all the craziness and all the madness and all the hype, you know, Mark just always had a completely different aura as far as what was in his orbit. Just different.
When you heard that they broke up, and obviously it's happened twice now, but when you
Yeah,
first got
yeah.
news of that, were you surprised by that? I mean, just with how much fun you guys were having, did it surprise you?
Um, no, I mean, at that time, no, because it didn't surprise me at the times that they broke up because they didn't fit in the world. The world changes, and bands can sense that. It's not, do we hate each other, or do we have, or it's, bands know when they don't fit anymore. But the irony is, I think 2022, 2023, I think they fit again. So I'm curious what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Um, I actually, I say that because my daughter now, my oldest daughter is 16, almost 17. And so she went through, like, on Spotify, top hits of 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, right? Kind of a thing that she did. And out of all of that, without me prompting, nothing, we don't talk too much about that stuff. She's a huge Blink fan.
Oh man. Nice.
Like, huge Blink fan. So something's happening. I mean, look at Machine Gun Kelly. He's just doing Blink. He stops rapping and starts doing Blink. I get tracks sent all the time on new stuff. This 17 or this 18, this, everyone's doing Blink.
Pop punk's
Ev-
back.
it's back, dude. It is like,
Yeah.
it's back with a little hip hop rap flair on it. But the thing is that Travis was baking that into it from day one when he got there. So even all those things that are there, I mean, Blink ends up winning, man. I mean, I was telling someone that Blink ends up winning. They won. They were the little brother of punk, and they grew up to be the godfathers of punk. At the end of the day, I think a lot of stuff's going to be forgotten, but not them.
Definitely not. Man, this has been such a pleasure. This is great. I want to give you a chance to talk about what you're up to these days. I know you have the Doane cast.
Talk about Blink.
You got your own podcast. You've got the Doane Network.
Yeah.
So let us know, what you're up to these days, and then I got some rapid fire, and then I'll get you out of here. I appreciate your time.
About 3 years ago, phone stopped ringing. I was like, wow, no one's calling me for anything. I had music videos, commercials, feature films, documentaries, campaigns, just nonstop work. Everything just stopped. And I realized, wow, I didn't do a good enough job at like promoting myself. And I kind of just rethought about everything and like, what was I doing? And okay, I'm going to become a forward-facing creative agency. We kind of always were, but I didn't lead with that. I led with filmmaker, director Darren Doane, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I need to just start building my brand. Really wanted to become super thoughtful on social media and how to use it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to start building my own brand. And then if I can build my own brand as a creative agency, I would then have the cred to build other people's brands. I looked at the phone. I thought, wait a minute, this is just punk rock. And all the bands I'd grown up on and with and worked with, I was like, wait, every single thing I learned from them, I can do on this phone. I mean, me jumping on a podcast with you is like someone saying, hey, do you want to play my friend's show venue? Right? I don't ask, well, how many people are listening to your show?
Yeah.
How many subscribers do you have? No, I watched bands, any opportunity they had to play a gig, they took it. And then they made flyers, and then they posted them, and then they played a show. And then after the show, they hung out with people, and they sucked. But those 5 people liked hanging out with them. And when they came back 6 months later, they were a better band, and those 5 people brought 15 people, and they saw a better version of what they saw. I said, what if I could do that with my own work, my own body of work on social media, and just approach my own business, career, brand with a phone the way I saw bands do it with the world on tour, driving, all that. But I could do that every day now. So I can communicate every day. I can put a poster up every day, a thought up every day. And actually, funny enough, what I learned is always communicate what you've done. Because 3 years ago, when I started on social media communicating my brand, like a week in, I was like, all right, I'll post a snippet from one of my Blink videos. And the first thing in my head was, yeah, but someone's going to ask you, well, is Blink still working with you today? I was like, oh man, how am I going to answer that? And then I realized, who's this person in my head that I have made up? Like, those are the videos I did at that time. Oh, well, that was 25 years ago, Darren. Like, I was like, wait, who's this person in my head? Like, I'm going to post it and talk about it. The next day, my phone just lights up. People I've been working with for 10 years. You work with Blink? Wait, you did that video? I can't believe that thing changed my life. We stole that on LimeWire or whatever people used back in the day to download stuff. And torrent this, that, and and I was like, and I started getting work by talking about stuff I did 25 years ago. I was just in Hawaii. Kid starts crying. This kid's mid-20s, maybe a little bit older, finds out I did Dammit. We're on a project. He owns this huge FPV thing, does all the Michael Bay movies, all stuff. And this kid just he's almost in tears, like, wait, you made Dammit? Not you made 99 Problems with Jay-Z, or you made the Green Day thing, or things that you could argue were all bigger.
Yeah.
No, these are people that's my life, dude. Like, you don't understand. That was my soundtrack. I watched that video 1,000 times, dude. You made that, and I realized I need to be proud of what I've done in the past. Keep communicating that, because that's a part of who I am and what I do. And because of that, that's how we end up, right? I start doing all that stuff, and you find me because I'm posting.
Yeah, it's a great point.
And here we are a few years later, And I've taken that punk rock mentality now as a creative agency. That's my paradigm. All of our clients that we work with, I say, look, we're going to build your brand the same way, Blink or Pennywise or AFI or MXPX, the way they built their career, we're going to build your brand. And it's got to be punk rock. Because in this day and age, the way we're all connected, at the speed at which you have to communicate, punk rock is the only way to win, because punk rock makes moves and decisions and doesn't wait for approval. And if you wait for approval in this day and age, if you wait for approval to sign off on something, you've already missed the opportunity. So to me, everything now has inverted. If you don't play this game, I don't care if you're a school promoting yourself, you're a graphic designer, you've got a bakery, this is all a game of speed now. You have this in your hand all day long. And if you're not here, you don't exist. And it was the same with punk bands. If you didn't get in that van and play those shows, you didn't exist. That phone is the new van. If you don't get in it, you don't exist. And so that became now how I run my entire new creative agency.
Wow. So Darren's at Doane Creative Official on Instagram, DoaneNetwork.com. Are you ready for some rapid fire, and then I'll get you out of here?
Oh, man. Okay, I'm so bad at this, but let's go.
It's not too bad.
I know. I'm good at answering rapid fire, but let's do it.
Favorite Blink album?
Untitled.
Favorite Blink song?
The first song on Untitled.
Okay, feeling this.
Yeah.
I ask my guests this a lot, and I'm a big collector. I like collecting things. I always have. As you can see me, I've got Blink memorabilia all over. House is on fire, family's safe, pets safe, everybody's safe. But you can grab one thing from your house. What are you grabbing?
I have the last photo I took that was taken of me with my father before he passed away. I'm with my father, and then my son is like 3 years old. So my 3-year-old's holding onto my father's jacket, walking down the street, and my father's holding on to my shoulder.
Wow.
And then I think he passed, a few weeks after that. So that would be the one thing I would go and grab.
Oh my gosh, that's a great answer. Last one, advice to those looking to get into this type of industry. You kind of touched on it a little bit. You got to be present. You got to be on your phone. What do you have as far as overall advice for some kid looking to make music videos these days?
Make something every day. Take this phone. There's more resolution and quality in this phone than all of my Blink videos combined. And make something every day, meaning beginning, middle, and end. Just tell yourself, okay, 3 shots. There's the toothpaste. Wide shot. Tight shot, it being squeezed on. Shot, brushing teeth. The end. Beginning, middle, end. Make something every day. Just like if someone said, how do I get good at guitar? I can tell you one thing you're going to have to do. You have to play guitar every day. Set aside 15 minutes, right? Art is the only place where for some reason no one thinks you have to do it every day. I don't know why that is. Do it every day with filming, beginning, middle, and end. Don't say, well, I'm writing a script, or I'm writing a feature, or I'm writing this thing, I'm collaborating with this guy. No, just get your camera, beginning, middle, end, cut it on iMovie, whatever you've got, just make something every day.
Great advice. Darren, I appreciate your time, man. This was such a pleasure.
How's this rank up there with all the podcasts? I mean, I'm pumped to be here. Is this good? Is this a good one?
It's towards the top. You almost made me cry twice. Good Lord. We're breaking records here on the pod. Good Lord. Awesome. All right. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Darren Doane. Darren, look forward to catching up with you soon.
You got it. Thank you so much.